At some level, I mean, there's a serious movie going on here, but we are trying to do a very stylized movie.
This is a right-wing group of empty-headed, beautiful people doing exactly what they're told to do.
Everyone fights, no one quits.
This is a war picture.
All hell's broken loose and there's nothing you can do about it. Fight or die.
We were inspired by the posters and by the slogans and even by the philosophy of the Second World War.
You kill anything that has more than 2 legs, you get me?
We get you, sir!
It obviously is a film that has its tongue in its cheek, that's trying to undercut the very society that it's portraying.
Would you like to know more?
I just had in mind this is Sandra Dee and Troy Donahue go to outer space and fight giant bugs and become Nazis.
Starship Troopers was first published in 1959. It won the Hugo in 1960. And it also caused quite a bit of controversy, quite a bit of stir.
It concerns a lot of the things globally, problems that we face today. Rising militarism, rising fascism, the loss of individuality. People just didn't write these books back in 1959. Robert Heinlein was born in Butler, Missouri in 1907 and was always fascinated with the Navy and with engineering and with military tactics, although he's now most famous for Starship Troopers, particularly because of the controversy the film adaptation of that novel caused. Before that, he was probably best known as the author of Stranger in a Strange Land, which was written in 1961, and that became an instant classic for the so-called counterculture of the late 60s. So he was a very influential and very groundbreaking figure in his own way in science fiction.
I read Starship Troopers when I was 12 years old and thought it was marvelous. And I think that memory stayed with me as I grew up and entered the movie business. And I always thought it would be a neat movie, as a lot of people did, I think. And I had been playing around with an idea which I think was pretty much inspired by Starship Troopers. And it was sort of a teenage love triangle set in a future war setting. I liked the idea of the melodrama, and I wanted to do a war movie that was sort of a throwback to the gung-ho propaganda movies of the 40s and the 50s. John Davison, as a good producer, checked into the rights.
And we figured, well, here's this classic book that it's been ripped off by everybody from Jim Cameron to the Japanese. And, somebody must have owned it. Somebody must have bought it over the years. And surprisingly, the rights were available, which was a complete shock.
So suddenly I found myself in a kind of a scary position of adapting this book that I loved and a book that is considered by many a classic. The challenge was to try to keep the sort of the philosophy and the intent of Heinlein, but also to move it into essentially an action movie as opposed to a philosophical treatise about why democracy won't work and why fascism or some form of neo-fascism would be more desirable.
The first thing that I heard about it was from Meyer, who told me very vaguely the story about young people going to fight giant bugs. And that seemed a little bit a strange idea, but it was attractive because it was kind of a childhood dream, It was different, and of course it gave me the opportunity, which I thought was extremely important for me, to work with Phil Tippett.
What I really wanted to do was make a movie that seemed, on one hand, to say, let's just go and kill a bunch of fucking bugs, man, it's gonna be great. But on the other hand, at the very end of it, I wanted to say, look at yourself in the mirror and look at what you become when you do this. I just wanted to make that sort of statement.
It was based on the assumption that what happens if Hitler would have won? How would the world look like? And the world would be a worldwide fascist, military-oriented government.
Well, we tried to use everything from the book that we could, but the problem was there wasn't enough in the book to make a film. We took the characters that were there, we combined a couple of characters, we added new characters, we added more narrative, we added the double love triangles, which weren't in the book, and tried to incorporate some things from the book that never made it into the finished film. We wanted to do the drop capsules, which is how the troopers left their ships They went down in capsules, and that's why they were called cap troopers. And we wanted to preserve the on the bounce. You could propel yourself up into the air, you know, and fly hundreds of yards and come down. We wanted to do that, and we wanted to have the power armor. We lost them for budgetary reasons and to some extent for dramatic reasons, because we just thought if we got hundreds of people jumping around like grasshoppers, A, you got all these people on wires, it's going to take forever to shoot it, we'll never afford to do it, and B, it's going to look silly if we don't do it brilliantly. And also, if you have all these people hovering up in the air, you know, why aren't they just shooting down on the bugs and hovering up in the air, you know? So it reduced the jeopardy element.
1, 2, 3.
When they originally began thinking about who they were actually going to sign on to portray characters like Johnny Rico and Carmen Ibanez and Dizzy, Ace Levy and all the other people, the younger performers who were talented and who were worth exploring further were mostly involved in television or working on other films.
I felt that it was important to have these young people really young, so that the innocence would be there in the beginning and you would not already feel that it was a cheat. And so I had to choose actors that were more in their early 20s than in the late 20s or say early 30s. And of course, there are not really stars available at that age.
So it then became obvious that they were going to have to go for virtual unknowns to a certain extent. People with some kind of experience that they felt would fill the shoes of the characters and, more importantly, live up to Paul's inner visualization of those characters.
We tried to find people that were resembling a proto-fascist ideal.
I'll go for that.
And we felt that it was interesting to really make the audience feel that this society is kind of self-discriminatory by saying, okay, the good people are the beautiful people.
They're perfect. They look like they belong on a Southern California beach at high summer sometime, and they seem to be vacuous.
35%, very nice.
And this is all Paul's kind of subversive and hidden way of just pushing his own agenda, what he's trying to, you know, comment on the social conditions of this futuristic world that's going on.
First thing Fleet Academy looks at is your math scores. Wish me luck.
The script called for a generation of young, beautiful-looking actors and actresses.
Every sort of young actor in Hollywood had at one point done a couple of episodes of Melrose Place. So it was sort of a good-looking, young Melrose Place kind of cast.
People used to call it Melrose Space when we were making it. But that was kind of cool to me. I thought, you know, that's all right.
Look at him. You ever seen anybody so pleased with himself?
I think I definitely looked like the right role. I think when I went in there and I spoke with him, we developed a good relationship, and it was fun. When I first went in, I went into Ed Neumeyer's room, and I grabbed the rifle that he had, and I kicked it up, and I did a couple twists with it and twirls that I'd done in drill team when I was in military school. And they just got a kick out of that. And then I talked about my military background and family and my beliefs. I'll take it. Till I get killed or you find someone better. This was my first real big film, and it was an amazing experience.
My dad had to help me pack. Suddenly he's afraid he's never going to see me again or something. I think it's, you know, about people and their values and this and that and love and all of that. And then the war.
Who's next?
Sir! Recruit Flores, reporting for duty, sir.
They initially wanted me to read for Carmen. And I just, when I read the script, I said, wait a minute, this is all wrong here. I can't see these words coming out of my mouth. This is just not right. And then I see, you know, Dizzy's character as I'm reading it, and I'm just like, wait, I should be going out for this.
You want to flip 6-3 whole play and you can score.
I just think I'm more the tomboy.
She came in, she wanted to play the role. Paul cast her instantly, and we never called her back for anything.
Looks like I'm your girl, sir.
It's school kids. They're just coming out of school, and people that age, in their 17s, whatever, they don't have a strong personality yet. You need the young generation to fight, to kill, and not to think. That's why it's cast that way, that it's not about strong personalities, which they have to lose. It's people with a surface, but you cannot see behind the surface.
I think it is meant to be a bit of an artificial movie. That's why I like the casting for the movie. That's why I like the artificial. I mean, the movie looks plasticine sometimes.
Okay, stay with me as I have some cool behind-the-scenes trivia. Stop motion has featured prominently in famous science fiction films. 2 of the RoboCop movies feature the stop motion technique at work, and the finale of the first Terminator film was done with stop motion. Now, do you like my shirt? You can get one for yourself in the shop under this video, and remember to click here below to subscribe for more great content.